What's happening, people, and welcome everybody to In the End Zone UK. Thank you for joining our American Football Podcast. I am your host, Dom, and we are here today to drop you a brand new podcast episode. In this episode, we'll be bringing you some recent NFL news and a couple of fun segments heading into the coming season. Before we get to that, let me welcome the other half of the In the End Zone UK team. Across the mic, it's Big Dave. Big Dave, how's it going?
Oi, oi, Savaloy.
Does that mean good?
Always good. Ready to rock. Drop some truth bombs. About
Truth
Mahomes.
bombs. Oh yeah, you got some truth bombs in the pocket, have you?
Yeah, you won't like them though.
Oh dear, the voice of reason. I thought you were.
In case anyone didn't know, Dom is a fanboy of my homeboy.
I've got to be. My boy Russell Wilson has now moved on to pastures new. So doesn't mean I'm defecting from the Seahawks. I just want Mahomes to do well. And to be honest, Dave, why are you hating? Mahomes is in your fantasy league. You want him to do well yourself, surely.
That's the only reason I'll be supporting him this season.
It's going to be painful to watch you supporting Mahomes on the sideline with your fantasy points. You'll be grimacing and cheering at the same time. I love it. Okay, cool. So we're going to drop a few segments, but before we get to that, our regular listeners, it's been a couple of weeks since we've dropped a podcast, but we're only 18 days away from the season opener. 18 days, Dave. 1-8. That is going to come round very quickly.
Yeah, especially as there's actual football on now with the pre-season. It's making it go pretty quick.
Exactly. So SoFi Stadium in 18 days, the reigning champions, the Rams, will be going at it. And as Dave just mentioned, for the last few weeks, we have been experiencing a slight, and I say slight, taste of football. It's a diluted version of what the regular season looks like and feels like. It is nowhere near as potent as the weekly games. Dare I say it actually be sometimes a wee bit boring, but at least we've got it on our TV screens and at least we're getting to see a few teams rolling their rookies out, their new starters, and seeing what they've all got in the tank. Because of that, Dave, this episode, I'm going to call it Pre-Season Personnel. And that's because later in the podcast, we are going to be talking about some teams that are having personnel and player decisions to make as the start of the season comes ever closer. And we're going to look at some standout rookies as well and some quarterback quandaries. There's loads to talk about today. But first, before we do that, let's talk about some news, some new news. And the first bit of news dropped actually just after we put out our last podcast, and it was in the same vein. But two people have been paid big payments in the last couple of weeks. One is Deebo Samuel. He got paid a 3-year, $73 million deal. Deebo Samuel got paid. Did you see that one coming, Dave? Did you see them eventually cracking and paying Deebo?
Yeah, they had to, didn't they? He's probably their standout receiver, isn't he? And I think there's clauses in there so they can use him as a running back as well. I reckon that's what was holding it up, to be honest.
Do you reckon?
Yeah, I think he wanted some clauses put in there and they put it in, so hopefully all comes well for him. He gets his 200 or 300 rushing yards, whatever it is, and gets I think there's like $1 million or $2 million bonus dollars.
Yeah,
not pounds.
No, dollars.
Not good enough to use the sterling.
There's a big incentive in there, or at least you say big. It'd be big to us. I would rush around the world for the incentives that are in these contracts, but I think it basically makes his $25 million a year, potentially $26 million a year if they decide to use him as a running back. And when I say they, it's the San Francisco 49ers that Deebo Samuel's at. They use him for a bit of everything, don't they? He's a bit of a Swiss Army knife. He can be a receiver lined up outside. He can line up inside in the slot, and he can even line up at running back or as a receiving back in the outfield, out of the backfield. So he's a hell of a player. He definitely made his case last year for the Niners, and he's a bit exciting. I think without him, the Niners play style is very vanilla. And so if they'd have not been able to get the deal done, I think they'd have been running the ball down your neck sort of 50, 60 times a game, and not really getting much else done. So, Deebo gets a very similar deal to DK Metcalf, actually, that we talked about last week. And he's obviously earning many gold pennies, as you would say, Dave.
Yes, he is.
Speaking of which, gold pennies, there's been a record-breaking deal happen in the last week, and that is for safety. Derwin James of the LA Chargers has received a deal worth $19.1 million a year, which supersedes anything else that's in the market at the safety position. I think it's £2 million a year more than Jamal Adams is making, and over $1 million more than Minka Fitzpatrick, who is the second highest paid safety at that position. 19.1 million a year for a safety, Dave. I mean, I know some safeties can be that good, but it is a lot of money in it. So there's a lot of money from your salary cap.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't know if he's worth it. I mean, I'm absolutely all for these guys getting paid, because they perform on a weekly basis and it gives me entertainment. But 19 million is a lot of golden pennies. And let's just hope he's worth it. Because I mean, it's just so much money in it. That's like top end wide receiver money. That is.
It is. That's where you start looking at it and thinking, that's closing in on wide receiver money. It's actually more than some, I suppose. I wouldn't say that it's necessarily quarterback money, but you're approaching, as soon as you approach that 20 million mark, that's a hefty proportion of your cap space, when your cap space is at just shy of 200 million or something. And this is one player getting paid that per year.
Yeah, nearly 10% of it.
It's
a lot of money when you think of that. There's 53 players on that team and one player's commanding 10%.
Yeah, exactly. And then you mix that in with, I think they're able to do it, the Chargers, just at the moment, because they've got Justin Herbert, the quarterback, on a rookie deal. But they've got a hell of a team this year, and they've just shored him all. The only questionable thing, I think Derwin James is a beast. He could be one of, if not the best safety in the NFL. The only thing that's questionable for him is that I can't remember the last time he played a full season, apart from maybe last year. I think he played every game last year. Might have missed one, but prior to that, the man has been injured and injury prone. So to get that kind of money, and I believe that around 50 million of it was guaranteed, that's a lot. So it's a big risk, but maybe big risks make big rewards.
Well, we shall soon see.
Indeed. You risk it for the biscuit. Another piece of news, the GOAT, Mr. Tom Brady, has been on hiatus for a few weeks. Asked the front office of the Bucs, or probably told them, that he was going to go on holiday with his missus for 2 weeks, and went to, where did he go, Dave? The Bahamas, was it?
Yeah.
And now he's back on practice. So, bit of a strange one, that. Antonio Brown called him out on Twitter, saying that, Brady does what he wants. And I think if you had 7 rings or whatever, you'd do what you wanted as well. But bit of a weird one that he just disappeared, isn't it? That's not a Tom Brady move necessarily, to just bin off training camp.
No, we were talking about it before. I think it's weird. I think there's some foul play going on.
Ooh, scandal.
So he retires. He's chilling at home for 3 months, then decides to unretire because he missed football or whatever. And then he's in the preseason, in the training camp preseason, and then he decides he needs to go on a holiday. I think there's something fishy going on. I reckon he's got family dramas. He needs to get himself on
family dramas.
Jeremy Kyle or Jerry Spring or whatever it is over there. Trisha Goddard. And find out what's going on.
Trisha Goddard. That was on in the UK, wasn't it? Was that on there?
So he needs to get
Borgal.
Yeah. She needs what's his wife's name?
Giselle.
She needs to get herself on Loose Women.
Yeah, get chatting about Tom.
Yeah, we need to find out what it is. But it just seems a little bit weird, because apparently he was miserable in training camp. That's what all their reporters were saying.
Right.
So this dude's miserable, and then suddenly he needs like a two-week holiday.
It's very strange.
Yeah.
I'd be miserable though if I'd been doing it for about 35 years. I'd be like, look, listen guys, I don't need to come to training. I'm the GOAT. let me just turn up and play. I'd be miserable as well. But
Yeah.
I also wouldn't be miserable if I got to spend that time with my
The golden ball,
supermodel.
literally golden balls walking around, deflating him as he goes.
Spying on folk.
That's funny that, like, I know we're probably going to get onto the Deshaun Watson suspension increase that he's had.
Yeah, that's next one.
When you think about, for Deflategate, so they didn't even prove that they were deflating balls or that Tom Brady was deflating balls, and he got a 4-game ban. They got fined like $5 million, and they lost draft picks.
Yeah.
I don't think the Browns have lost draft picks, have they?
No, because the Browns can't be necessarily penalised for an individual's actions.
Yeah,
I
take them
guess.
off the Texans and the Browns. Get them all gone.
Yeah,
Give them to the Giants.
Give all the picks to the Giants and the Seahawks.
Yeah.
We need them.
Yeah,
but yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Maybe more will come of that, Dave. Maybe your instincts will be correct. But Tom Brady's come back to practice, and maybe he thought he needed to come back because without him, it seems like all the Bucs offensive linemen are suddenly miraculously getting injured when they're playing with other people. There's been 3 injuries now along the Bucs starting offensive line, which is not going to bode well for Brady going into the season. I'm sure he'll manage. But the starting centre, guard, or is it 2 centres and a guard have now gone down injured?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what's happening there, but he's in trouble.
Their offensive line's falling apart.
You mentioned it just a minute ago, but we have to talk about it very, very briefly. Deshaun Watson was given or a recommendation of a 6-game ban by the powers that be, and then the NFL contested it, and for what we thought was going to be a season-long ban for his very inappropriate actions and sexual harassment allegations over the last few years, has just turned out to be, what is it, 11?
Yeah.
11-game ban and
Comes
$5
back for
million.
the Texans. It's his first game.
See, that's not normal, is it? So he's been given an 11-game ban and a $5 million fine, which that's a pretty hefty fine for most players. But for Deshaun Watson, who's just signed a $250 deal guaranteed, that's like, oh, that's a shame I've lost $5 million. Do you know what I mean? That's not an impact. I think if you want to make an impact on a player of his caliber, you've got to hit him with like, I don't know, 30, 50 mil to make him actually feel it. Like, he won't feel that 5 million. Won't even see it probably.
No, I mean 30 is probably a little bit harsh, but
yeah,
the dude's clearly a sex pest.
Yeah,
and if I was the Browns, I'd be like, look, boyo, if you're having a massage, it's with Big Jim the Fijian here, okay? You're like, you are staying away from female masseuses while you wear this helmet on our helmet logo.
Yeah.
Because the dude can't be trusted, clearly.
No, you wouldn't trust him as far as you could throw him. Definitely not now. So yeah, you're probably right. You probably have to put all sorts of clauses in to say, Deshaun, you get massaged by what was his name? Jimmy the Fijian or something.
Big John the Fijian.
Big John.
Yeah, no,
Big
I think
John the Fijian.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? And look, if you're paying people off, you're guilty. I don't care what anybody says. Not here to debate it.
No.
If you're paying people off, you're guilty.
Yeah, and in which case, that's just a very strange scenario in itself, is that he's clearly guilty, he's clearly done some very, very bad stuff. And then the NFL turns around and goes, oh, no. We're not only going to give him a six-game ban, absolutely not. It requires something far more severe. Should we double it? No, don't quite double it. Don't give him 12. It's not that severe. Let's give him 11. It's absolutely ridiculous. And it feels very contrived. Like, what's the chances that the game that he's allowed back to play are going to be playing, he's playing against the Texans who've just released him? I feel that's not coincidence. I don't care what anybody says.
No, they've probably looked at it and they've gone, that's a good storyline for him to come back to. It'll get people watching. I hope he's absolutely dross. I mean, I think he can practice something like 3 weeks before his suspension's up, so he'll be back practicing after like 8 games.
Yeah.
Uh, I know he's definitely not playing anymore the pre-season, which which I think he's
Played the
allowed to practice, or he would be allowed to play.
he played the first game.
Yes, he's been banned regular season games. It's weird, the NFL, the way it works.
Yeah, it's very strange, but he doesn't look great. He waddled out onto that pitch on that first pre-season game. Like I said, looking like a very, overly filled bag of sick, and then threw for 1 of 7 for 7 yards, I believe, and no first downs. So, doesn't bode well for the Browns, but at least they're getting back after 11 games. I thought it'd be a full year, 17 game suspension, and I do believe it should have been, but, here we are, and that's where we are. So, Deshaun Watson will play in 2022, and maybe that will be enough to keep the Browns afloat. But without that, they could be in a bit of trouble. Final bit of news. Not sure whether this is good or bad. Certainly not necessarily good for your for the heart and the palpitations. But Madden 23 was released a couple of days ago, Dave. We both got it early and have been, I wouldn't say smashing it, because I'd be smashing it if I enjoyed it a little bit more. But yeah, it's been released, Madden 23. It's as good as the last one. Probably better in certain aspects. The machine, sort of like the machine mechanics of how players move seems better. The graphics are better. I think the play style is just a bit weird, and maybe it's just a little bit of getting used to. But what do you reckon to Madden 23, Dave? We've been jonesing for it a little bit, just I think because 22 was released a year ago now, and it becomes a little bit defunct and old. But I know that I've heard some profanities coming from you in relation to the game, and Lord knows there's been a few from me as well.
Oh, it's dross, isn't it? I don't know why I don't know why I pay 60 quid every year. I mean, they've had the best part of £300 off me. EA have. A computer games are the best part of £300. 300 of my hard-earned pounds. And all it's doing is contributing to me going to an early grave. It's easily took 5 years off my life. I had a full head of hair before I started playing Madden, and now I'm as bold as that dude who used to present the Crystal Maze. Do you know what I mean? Like it's absolute dross. The only thing that's going to be getting smashed will be my TV, my pads, my Xbox.
I was literally about to say, I don't know how many controllers people go through when they play Madden, but if the PlayStation 5 wasn't so expensive, controllers would have been seen just peppering out of my window like the autumn rain and landing on the concrete, because it frustrates the life out of me. Doesn't help that the Seahawks are terrible on Madden, and some players have been seen right off. I'm not gonna start a petition for the improve the Seahawks on Madden scenario, but the players are not good, and it's really difficult to play against teams that are far, far overly powered compared to what they're like in real life. Cough, cough, the Dallas Cowboys. Whoever makes EA must be a Cowboys fan, Dave. I'm telling you that for free.
It's ridiculous.
Micah
Parsons out there running around like a hybrid Michael Strahan, Lawrence
/
Taylor.
Bobby Wagner.
Absolutely annihilating things.
It's
anyway,
ridiculous.
Enough of that. It's stressing me out thinking about it.
Exactly. But Madden 23 is out, and if you want to get involved, I mean, it is a really good way. It is, and as much as it makes you angry, it only makes me and Dave angry because we're really, really good at it. And so any kind of way that we don't get our own way, we get a little bit perturbed. But if you're new to the game, if you're new to football, it's how I learned a lot of the rules, was playing Madden. It helps you understand some of the playbooks and the play styles and what to look for when you're actually watching a real game. So actually, if you don't invest yourself as heavily as me and Dave doing it, and you just pick it up and play a few games, it will really help you understand the rules of American football. And it definitely helped me back in the day. So pick it up, have a go, try the demo, play the online for free for 10 hours or whatever they give you for an early EA pass, and see what happens. And then if it's worth spending your 70 hard English golden pennies or American dollars or Chinese yen or whatever it is, then go and do it. Cool. That's our news. That is our news, all wrapped up. And well, I say it's news, but the top 100's out at the moment, Dave, isn't it? And it's whittled its way down to the final 20. Again, if you're new to football, top 100 is something that is amazing to watch. You can go on YouTube and just Google NFL Top 100 2021. And at the moment, they're giving you a breakdown of individual players voted for by the players. So this is like players who respect each other, essentially voting for each other to be the number one player in NFL. And it gives you a little bit of insight into how they play, why they've been nominated, and why those players are so good, and why they're the players that you should look out for in the NFL. But it's whittled its way down to the final 20. So with that in mind, considering it's not been released yet, Dave, I want to play a little game with you. Are you up for playing a game?
I am always up for playing games.
So I want to play a quick game of top 100 bingo. Okay. So I've listed who I think will now finish in the top 10. Not in the top 20 because there's only 20 left. But I've listed who is going to finish in the top 10. I will give you the names. And if you agree and you've got them in your top 10, you shout bingo after every player. And at the end, we'll confer as to who has made it into the top 10 from my side and who has made it into yours. And we can have a look over the next week or two and see who actually hits that top 10. Sound good?
It does.
Okay, so bingo, if it's in your top 10. I'm going to give you number 1. And this is in no particular order, so I'm not listing them out. No particular order. Jonathan Taylor, running back for the Colts. Oh, no bingo. No bingo. Okay, all right. Next one. TJ Watt.
Bingo.
Josh Allen.
Bingo.
Aaron Donald.
Bingo.
Cooper Kupp. DK Metcalf.
No.
Patrick Mahomes.
Bingo.
Justin Jefferson. Devontae Adams.
Bingo.
Wow. Okay. We definitely didn't line up there. So who did I not say that you've got in your top 10? You didn't put Cooper Kupp in your top 10?
No.
Seriously?
So,
ouch.
I to be honest with you, I've not been following it, so some of my mind might have already gone. But so Rodgers.
Yep.
Donald.
Yep.
TJ Watt.
Yep.
Mahomes.
Yep.
Goat.
Tom Brady. Yeah, you see, I didn't put him in my 10.
No, because you put DK Metcalf in there, you buffoon.
It's a joke.
Derrick Henry.
Yeah, so I had him actually where DK Metcalf was, but I just decided to say it for a laugh.
Yeah, well, everyone now thinks you're a clown, so good job. Did you have Derrick Henry?
Yeah, he was number 9 on my list.
Devontae Adams.
Yeah.
Josh Allen. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had Kelsey.
Oh, I didn't think of him. Travis Kelsey, yeah.
Yeah, and the last one, I had Tyreek Hill.
Wow, okay. Interesting. Okay, so yeah, Justin Jefferson was my difference maker, as well as Jonathan Taylor. Interesting. Okay. Well, I'm glad that we didn't align necessarily all together. We'll see what happens, I suppose. I'll be very, very shocked if Cooper Kupp is not in the top 10. I feel like he'll be top 5, maybe top 3. Great.
Think of one season. I think these are all perennial. Every one of mine is a perennial good player. Like they've had good seasons. They had a good season last year. He just had one good season.
I agree. I wouldn't put him in my top 5, but I think that other players are going to look and see what he's done. He was a few yards off breaking like every record possible last year, and he made Super Bowl MVP and whatever else. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe I just thought the players would think that he's done absolute bits this year, and so they put him in. I wouldn't, like you say. Devontae Adams is still a better receiver in my eyes than Cooper Kupp, but so is DK Metcalf. But we'll see what happens.
Lol.
Okay. Now we're going to finish up on our final segment, which is pre-season personnel, and I'm going to split this into two, Dave. I'm going to split this into two, and we're going to talk rookies. So this is going to be rookie watch. That kind of makes me rookie watch. That kind of reminds me of Anchorman. Have you seen on Anchorman when it's Brian Fantana and he's doing Panda watch, and it cuts to him watching a panda give birth.
Panda watch. The mood is tense. I have been on some serious reports, but nothing quite like this. Ching King is inside right now. I tried to get an interview with him, but they said, nope, you can't do that. He's a live bear. He will literally rip your face off. Hey, you're making me look stupid. Get out here, panda jerk.
Great story. Compelling and rich.
Can you remember that?
Okay,
That's kind of the vibe I'm going for. Rookie watch. What rookies have made a strong enough campaign to start in the NFL? So are there any rookies that have just been drafted that you've seen in the last two preseason games that you think have done enough to start in the NFL this year?
I think it's hard because, when I've been watching, the only games I've really been paying attention to, obviously, the Giants games. Because I don't really know, once it gets after the first series, I don't really know any of the other players in any of the other teams, because they're all second or majority of them are third stringers. But what I will say is that the Giants rookies have looked very underwhelming.
Have they?
And that bothered me in the first game until I listened to the commentary of the game that they've just played, where it's the Giants commentators that were commentating.
Mm-hmm.
And they were basically saying that you're not going to see anything flashy from any of the rookies that we've drafted because they're all going to be used in sort of like plays that are going to be actually in the playbook. So the preseason, none of it's playbook. It's just the kind of scripted for them particular games, but it's not. You won't see any of these plays that are in the preseason happening in the regular season.
Right.
So I'm happy that I've not seen enough of my rookies. But to answer your question, who do I think has looked good? The Steelers quarterbacks look good. Is his name Pickett? Is that his name?
The Steelers quarterback's Kenny Pickett, yeah.
I think if I was there, if I was the Steelers, I'd be starting him because Mason Rudolph, Mitchell Trubisky, you know exactly what they are. You might as well start Pickett. I think he's looked alright.
Yeah.
Who else? I think Sky Moore. He's the Chiefs receiver. I think he's been very beige.
Yeah.
He had a couple of drops, big drops, well, one in the end zone this week on week 2 of the preseason.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think who else.
So I've got a couple.
Who was the number 1 pick? He had a sack in his first game.
Yeah. So Trayvon Walker had a sack in his first game for the Jags. Since then, he's not done a lot, and the Jags have played, I believe, one extra game. I think, or was it that they played the opener and then didn't play
the Hall
for a while?
of Fame game.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I can't remember whether it's one extra or not, but yeah, I've not heard his name since. That's one sack. I mean, for the Seahawks, Boye Mafe had 2 sacks in one game for us, who was our second round pick pass rush. That George Karlaftis, is it Karlaftis for the Chiefs?
Yeah, he did look good, yeah.
He's had 2 sacks, a sack in every game. And obviously they're not playing him the whole time. I mean, I daren't talk about Kayvon Thibodeau after last night. That
was 100% a dirty play.
Yeah. So last night, one of Dave's new football giants, Kayvon Thibodeau, who was 4th off the board, 5th off the board in the draft, took a really nasty, naughty tackle really from somebody. which has given him an MCL sprain, which means he's going to be sidelined for a couple of weeks. At least it's not a tear which would have seen his season over. But yeah, we watched that earlier, Dave, didn't we? And you were livid, just because it should not be allowed. Should not be allowed in pre-season. It was a dirty tackle in general, but I don't know if he's looked good or not. From your perspective, I guess that's something that you're waiting to see, as you just mentioned. But yeah, some decent pass rush, and even that Aiden Hutchinson, who was second off the board, has looked okay for the Lions. I think he had a tackle for loss. He's not had a sack yet. But Malik Willis for the Tennessee Titans has taken a lot of the preseason snaps ahead of Ryan Tannehill. I don't believe he's necessarily going to be the starter, but he's looked pretty good with what he's done. He's been able to throw on the run. He's thrown some decent deep balls. He's basically shown everything that he showed at the combine in terms of just having a strong arm. He's ran for a touchdown. He's obviously very athletic. I just don't know. I don't know where that puts him. And George Pickens as well for the Steelers. I think you mentioned, Kenny Pickett and then George Pickens or Pinkins or whatever his name is. He had a good opening game against the Seahawks. Caught a nice little toe tap in the end zone in game one. So there's some emergence of talent. I tell you also who looks quite good, and it's only been a small amount of footage to watch, but Dalvin Cook's brother, James Cook, who has gone to the Bills. The Bills have got a bit of a running back by committee, I think, at the moment, with Singletary and James Cook and who's the other one that they've got? I can't remember who it is now, but they've got another running back who started a lot of games last year. Zach Moss, is it?
Oh yeah, yes it is.
Yeah, but James Cook has had a fair amount of snaps in the preseason, and he looks quite explosive. Looks fast. Looks like he's a little bit Dalvin Cookish. Like he's got a lot of acceleration, and I think if he can mix that in, because Singletary's not the fastest running back out there, I don't think, but he's a good ball carrier. If you can mix a few flashes of brilliance in with James Cook, that only makes the Bills team even more deadly to control. So those are the players that I've seen so far in pre-season that have made potential starts. Boye Mafe, Malik Willis, George Pickens, James Cook, but we'll have to see, I suppose.
Okay, can you imagine if he's 75% what his brother is? If he's 75% of what Dalvin Cook is on the Bills, it's disgusting.
It is.
Their team is.
It is
very nice.
Savage. Yeah, it is savage. We were watching it the other day, weren't we, Dave? Just the opening drives for the Chiefs and the Bills, and Josh Allen just fires lasers. 40-yard touchdown to Gabriel Davis on his opening drive. I know I'm a bit biased because I do love him, but Mahomes did look pretty damn good as well in his opening 2 drives, which was quite surprising. They kept him on for 2 drives. Maybe they're just trying to shake the rust off and get him fully football ready with a slightly new offense, but he looked immense. Those teams could dominate in the AFC. I mean, they already do, but they could continue to.
Yeah.
Okay, finally then, we've talked about rookies or people establishing themselves within a team, but how about teams that don't have an established quarterback? So let's talk about those, and let's talk about who we think has won that starting job. There's one more preseason game to go next week, and then it's a rest week, and then the season starts. So we just talked about this one, so we can cover it off really quick. I've got it down here that's saying who starts for the Steelers, Mitchell Trubisky or Kenny Pickett.
I'm going to say Pickett.
Yeah? You start Pickett right now, yeah?
I think so. I don't think Trubisky's it. He's a backup, I think. So you might as well just get Pickett muddied early, get him in there, see what happens.
Yeah. No, I'm not against that either. Like you say, I think you know what you've got with Mitchell Trubisky. I think he gets more of a hard time than he should. I think if somebody said to me, you could take Mitchell Trubisky at the Seahawks, I'd be tempted. But I don't think he gives you that. I just don't think he gives you that X factor. Maybe Kenny Pickett over time will, and you you learn by doing, don't you? So giving
Yeah.
that opportunity. So what about the Falcons? So the Falcons are stuck in the mud a little bit. They've got to choose between Marcus Mariota or Desmond Ridder. It's a tough one, that is, because they're both quite similar players by the looks of things, quite mobile. Looks like Ridder's got a better arm, but Mariota's got the experience,
Yeah,
I suppose.
I think I'd play Mariota, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Mm.
I think it gives the Falcons more of a chance to win, doesn't it? In the fact that he's probably got a stronger NFL football mind because he's been in the league a few years. He's got wheels, so he can use his legs, as can Ridder. But I think Mariota in the short term gives you just maybe a bit more hope than throwing everything into the hands of a rookie. Also because they haven't got a lot to play with either. Name a receiver outside of Kyle Pitts.
Yeah. Good luck.
Exactly. So
Don't know. Did they take that? Did they take that Drake London?
They did actually. No, that's a fair shout. I mean, he's a rookie, but yeah, they took Drake London. Don't know what he's looked like in pre-season. Not seen a lot.
I've seen one catch. He looked pretty good. He's tall, isn't he? Like me.
Yeah,
6'5" plus.
He's a big boy.
The difference, I'll just say quickly, the difference between the Falcons and the Steelers there is the fact that Pickett played in that stadium. So he played for Pitt at university, so Pittsburgh University, and they play all their games at whatever Heinz Field is now called. So he'll be used to that stadium. He'll be used to the fans. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think it's
not as big a jump.
No.
Yeah. No, I hear what you're saying. No, that's a smart move. Thinking about the intricacies there, Dave. You could be a coach.
I know all things.
Next one up is the Seattle Seahawks. The slog continues. Bottom of the barrel for probably quarterbacks in the NFL at the moment. But the race is on between Geno Smith and Drew Lock. Now, I'll keep my reservations to myself until you've said something, but I've got a strong opinion on this one. What are you saying?
Yeah. I mean, this ain't a race, is it? This is two slugs going at it. It's not a quick race.
No,
but if you do not start Drew Lock, Pete the Meat needs castrating. He is.
Yeah.
Geno Smith has got about as much power in his arm. I don't know, as a double amputee. He's just. I can make that joke. 'Cause I'm in the army. Watching him throw balls, he looks like, I don't know, like a young high school, but he's got no power. Everything flutters, everything just floats. Drew Lock can whip it in. Like he's got a big arm on him. And I know that if DK's just getting these little flutter balls thrown at him, he's going to be frustrated, I think. And your big thing this year will be trying to keep DK happy. Because if he leaves, you've got no superstar.
Mm. Yeah, we're in trouble.
And that people will go to watch DK. If he's not there because he's requested a trade, then do you know what I mean? I think it's about
keeping him happy, which is a sad story, but I have to agree with you entirely, and I'm glad that you said the same thing, so I'm not just sort of on my own island needing a lobotomy, but Geno shouldn't even be in the conversation, like, for me. We've seen him, as a Seahawk, as a Jet, he's played many games and he started a few, like he started 4 games for us last year. He never looked like he was clutch. He never looked like he could win a game. I think he did win one, to be fair to him, but that came down to far more than just what he can do with the ball. We still had Bobby Wagner at the time and others that have left since, but Geno Smith is just not what the Seahawks need right now. He's a perennial backup, has been for as long as he's been in the league. Drew Lock is a number 1 pick that needs a chance. Broncos never gave him a full chance. Maybe it's because they didn't see anything, in him. But I don't think the Broncos at the time of taking him had the weapons to make him, particularly good. They really recently signed Jerry Jeudy. Before that, Cortland Sutton was their main receiver and was injured a fair amount. They had Emmanuel Sanders, who was pretty old. they didn't have the things around Drew Lock like Tyler Lockett, Noah Fant, DK Metcalf. That's three very, 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 very good receivers and pass catchers. And I think that you just give that ball to Drew Lock and say, look, show us what you can do. And that's when you start Geno Smith. If he starts 6 games and loses 6, you go, okay, we know that we're not getting what we need from Drew Lock at the moment. In you go, Geno. You might win us 1 or 2 games from just being so vanilla it hurts, but maybe it's like less mistakes or something like that. But in training camp and in every game that I've watched so far, Drew Lock looks like far the better quarterback and gives you that over the top, deep downfield threat and a little bit of wheels. He's quicker than you think. He's quite athletic. He gives you that extra bit. So, as a Seahawks fan, I'd be very, very upset if Geno Smith is week 1 starter. But I can see it. Because Pete is borderline geriatric.
That's being kind.
Last 2, we spoke about this one as well. But Malik Willis or Ryan Tannehill at the Tennessee Titans, who would you start?
Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah, safe pair of hands, right?
Yeah, whilst you're using Derrick Henry as the bell cow, why would you need to mix things up by having somebody who can't read defenses properly? Do you know what I mean? He's like,
yeah.
Their whole game is predicated on them running the ball. And what Tannehill's he's not got to throw the ball 70 yards downfield because they're constantly getting 10-yard chunks. You know what I mean? That they're a kind of, I don't want to say boring offense, because when Derrick Henry breaks away a 70-yard run and clotheslines 4 DBs in the process to taking it to the house, it's not boring, but they're built on the run. So I think if you've got, and Tannehill's got the legs to just make the short yardage downs, he can make the throws within 30 yards accurately. I don't think you need to mix that up by putting in a new quarterback who might try and do too much when sometimes you don't need to do that.
No, I absolutely agree. I think that makes a lot of sense. Malik Willis can probably just sit behind Tannehill for 1 or 2 years, start to learn the offense and come in, a little bit more exciting, I suppose, later in the year, or maybe gets a chance if Ryan Tannehill gets sacked as many times as he did last year, which was a lot. And then lastly, so this one, I put this one in because I read a quote on Instagram from the head coach of this team, and he said that this person was light years ahead of where he was last year. The QB race is on in Green Bay. Do you play Jordan Love or do you play Aaron Rodgers?
I trade Jordan Love for a
9th round pick.
I trade him for a 7th round pick in 2074, and I bring in Mike Glennon as the backup to Aaron Rodgers.
Obviously a fun one that I put in there. I thought it was hilarious that the head coach of the Packers was saying that Jordan Love was light years ahead of where he was last year and that he was looking good. Who cares? No one cares about Jordan Love or him in the preseason. Obviously, it's all about Aaron Rodgers, the 2-time or 3-time back-to-back 2-time MVP. But I just thought I'd throw it in there just to wind Cam up a little bit. One of our mates who's a Packers fan. Maybe Jordan Love comes in if Rodgers goes down, takes the Packers
I cannot wait. I cannot wait. People don't understand, yeah. If you follow a good team, more for it, and I'm absolutely happy for you that you can sit and watch football every week. You finish 10, 11 wins. I'm happy for you. But there is nothing that's going to make me more happy than when Aaron Rodgers calls it a day, and because he's an arsehole, he's going to do it with as little notice to the Packers as physically possible, so they have to start Jordan Love. And when they win 3 games that season, and all the Packers fans are crying and become Chiefs fans or Bills fans or Vikings fans or whatever, I'm going to be sat happy. Because you know what? My team wins 4 games every year, and it stresses me the fuck out. So welcome to my pain. You Seahawks fans that are going to suffer this year, welcome to my pain. Packers, they're coming for you.
I'm on board.
Your time's coming.
It is going to come, but for the time being, it will not be there unless these light years have taken Jordan Love past the Hall of Famer to be that is Aaron Rodgers, and it's not going to happen. So that's the end of this one. So thank you very much for listening, everyone. As you may have seen from our recent promotions, we are now and still in association with Hickory Smokehouse Nottingham. Me and Big Dave will be heading down there for the opening weekend of the NFL. We're going to be eating waffles and burgers and drinking beer and doing an NFL pub quiz. So come along. We're going to be sharing some information on this on our social media, and hopefully Hickory's will be doing so closer to the time too. Grab some grub, watch football on a Sunday. Opening weekend, we will be running wild. But for now, thank you for listening. Take it easy and peace out.